Viva Mexico, cabrones! The UFC is back in Mexico City. I'm Dino Bam Bam, and I got a special guest for you guys. You've been waiting for the return. DS is here with me for this breakdown episode, and I'm excited to get into it. Stay right here.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of the 10-7 MMA. I'm your boy DS, and I'm here. Well, I'm not here, but he's there. I'm here with my guy, Dino Bam Bam. What's up, Dino Bam Bam?
DS, how you doing, brother? How does it feel to be back?
It feels great. It feels great. Feels like I never left. Obviously, we are here today to break down UFC Fight Night Moreno versus Erceg, which is happening in Mexico City. So, of course, as a little kind of precursor to everything that we're going to talk about today, it's at massive altitude.
Yeah, massive altitude. We got the Angel of Independence in Mexico City behind us. We traveled to Mexico City to do this, as you guys can see. We got the fucking upside down exclamation mark. There's lots of NEAs on this card. It's pretty cool.
I fucks with it. Orale.
Orale, wait.
All right, before we get into the card, and it's a pretty fucking long card, dude. How many fights are on this bitch? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Oh, okay, I thought it was more than that.
Still,
Felt like more. But nice sizable card. I will say the UFC's been kind of fucking ass. Like, what are they on? With like the cards in general. Obviously the main event here, Brandon Moreno, Steve Erceg, very nice. Beyond that, a couple good fights, but like, what the fuck, man?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's a themed card, DS. Me and you have talked at this point like a million fucking times on this channel. Don't love the themed cards because it does give us that, right? Like, yes, you get to see some cool regional prospects and you get to see, people from that country, and the crowd's obviously more fucking wild than they are here in
That's
America.
the best part of it.
Right. I mean, if you like that kind of shit, then that's awesome. I like to see
But
different
the crowd
crowds.
is the crowd is by far the best part of the, outside of like Mexico, Brazil, Europe, especially Europe, I feel like.
Yeah, 100%. We were just in fucking England, now we're in Mexico, which is wild. But anyways, DS. Let's get into fucking UFC Mexico. But before we get into it, I'm going to do something here. Follow us on Instagram, guys, at D107MMA. See, if you guys have been longtime fans of the channel, longtime watchers, you would know that was a mistake because I don't do that first, but do that. Follow us on Instagram at D107MMA. But more importantly, please like and subscribe. It would mean the world to us. DS, we are fucking inching, brother. Inching towards that 1,000. I'm hoping we hit it in the Volkanovski card, and I think we will.
Let's get it.
So
Let's get
help
it.
us out, y'all. Help us
Tell a
out.
friend. Tell a friend. Tell your girl. Well, she probably won't give a fuck, but we used to do she can go catch up on the what's it called? The casuals guide. But if you're ready, brother, let's just jump right into it. First fight of the night, we've got Markel Medeiros. He is taking on Austin Hubbard. How do you see this fight going, brother?
Yeah, DS. Fucking first of all, Austin Hubbard, man, just a dog, right? A gritty veteran, super well
That's
rounded.
your boy for sure.
I wouldn't say he's a my boy, but I fuck with him. He's gritty, man. Like, you gotta love the guys that leave the UFC and then work their way back into it. Yes, he was on the Ultimate Fighter, and that's kind of how he got his way back in. But still, awesome to see people have kind of like that career resurgence. Either way, man, he's a jack of all trades, a master of none, just like a very, very tough, durable fighter. Kind of a throwback, right? Sort of like you used to see a bunch of these guys floating around in the UFC, and you don't really see that anymore. Again, just a tough dude willing to fucking brawl, and I like that. He is taking on Markel Medeiros. I was going to say Yancy Medeiros. Shout out Yancy Medeiros, a throwback there. But Markel Medeiros, a good striker, great volume, crisp combinations. He's always loose and relaxed in the cage, DS, and I love that about his striking style, man. He's not the best striker in the world, but he's visually pleasing, right? Like, it's a fun striker to watch, and I like that about him. Solid takedown defense, solid sub skills. Won his UFC debut last time out. I mean, look, you kind of hinted towards it, right? I do love me some Austin Hubbard, but at the end of the day, man, I just think Markel Medeiros is just the better fighter. He's sharper everywhere. He's going to be cleaner. If I'm not mistaken, man, I had the list and I don't have it with me. I had a list of where everyone trains, and there was people that train at altitude and people that fucking don't. Wish I had that with me. That would have been some good insight, but follow us on Instagram and you guys will see that.
Markel Medeiros, I know, is at Factory X.
So that's altitude. But yeah, I'm going Markel Medeiros, man, and I'm going
Hubbard's
decision.
in Denver too, actually.
Right. Yeah. Whatever. Fuck it.
All right, yeah, I agree with you, man. I'm gonna go Medeiros. I'm gonna go by decision. I like that he's from Factory X. It's a respectable gym. Watch some of his fights on the regional scene. He looked really good on the regional scene. In particular, really liked the striking. But I don't know, like on the Contender Series, I didn't think he looked that great. His grappling does seem competent, but this is a fight where, Austin Hubbard, like you said, man, super tough guy. I respect him as a fighter. I think we kind of know who he is at this point. I think his best bet is probably to try to take this to the ground. He's tough as hell, so I don't really see anything here aside from a decision. But I am going to take Medeiros by decision here. I think there is a possibility that this fight potentially ends up being a snooze fest too. So we'll see, man. I just think Medeiros has the better striking, while Austin Hubbard's tough as hell. Medeiros could even be better on the ground, but Austin Hubbard, wily veteran, right? I just don't see it. So yeah, give me Medeiros by decision.
One thing to keep in mind here, DS, for what it's worth, for the conspiracy theorists out there, man, a lot of these fucking first fights of the night, and I go back like 6, 7 months now. First fight of the night is like a high percentage of them go to some fucking weird, wonky ass decision. The
I've
judging's
lost
fucking
most parlays
terrible.
on the first fight.
That's what I'm saying, man. So just be careful of that, I guess. But yeah, I
If
mean,
you're gonna bet anything here, I mean, and now of course don't, but if you're gonna bet anything here, I would smash the overs, right? I think this is almost guaranteed to go to decision. Now, of course, Austin Hubbard's gonna flatline Markel Medeiros.
by
So,
fucking spinning heel kick. But look, yeah, I mean the overs, there might be some value there, right? Because Vegas is probably going to be going with a lot of like lower round props than we're used to being at fucking elevation. So yeah.
yep, that's true. Yeah, you might have some nice odds on that. I guess we'll find out tomorrow. All right, let's move on. Next fight on the card, we've got Jamal Emmers. He is a sizable favorite versus Gabriel Miranda. A little disclaimer in general here. I have not looked at any odds as I was doing my notes for this week. So just a heads up there. So I'm going to be just as fucking surprised. Like I was not expecting. Is that you think that line's pretty good?
Yeah, I do.
You do? You're that comfortable with Emmers? All
Yeah.
right. Yeah. Look, man. This is a pretty much a classic jiu-jitsu specialist grappler versus a pretty good striker. Now, I know Jamal Emmers has some okay jiu-jitsu himself, but to me, his bread and butter is going to be in the striking, especially when you're taking on a guy like Gabriel Miranda, who to me seems like a guy who's kind of on his way out of the promotion at this point. He's pretty much a specialist, right? He's got really good jiu-jitsu. He's a brawler on the feet more than anything. So, you've got a guy who's very brawly versus a guy who's got pretty damn good boxing. I know he's coming off a bad loss, and he's kind of piled up a couple of losses here in his last few. Let me pull up his. Yeah, I mean, his only win being versus Dennis Bazookia. The Jack Jenkins fight, split decision. I love Jack Jenkins, man. I think that definitely could have gone to Emmers personally. I think I had money on Jenkins, but I think I still thought that Emmers won that fight. But anyway, to me, the striking is the big difference here. I could see a world where Gabriel Miranda, maybe Emmers gets too brawly with Gabriel Miranda. Maybe something clips him. If he ends up on the ground, we have seen him lose, a handful of times at this point. Two submissions. That seems to kind of be like his kryptonite. I just think he's more well-rounded, and I just think the striking is much better. I'm going to take him for a decision win. I'm not as confident as you are, though, it sounds like.
Yeah, that's fair, man. To me, DS, it's pretty simple, right? I mean, you kind of mentioned Gabriel Miranda probably on his way out. I mean, yes, he is a nasty jujitsu practitioner, great sub skills and all that. The transitions very well, good ground control, but he suffers with that thing that a lot of these jujitsu guys do, which is shitty takedowns, right? So I think he's going to struggle with the takedowns, and I really hate that this J here is fucking lowercase. My bad. But yeah, like if he's going to struggle to take down Jamal Emmers, there's a big difference on the feet. Jamal Emmers, a guy with great power. Gabriel Miranda, a guy who's been kind of chinny, man. So I see this fight ending in knockout. I like Jamal Emmers via round one KO, to be honest with you.
Damn. All right.
Maybe, I think we're kind of drawing the same like conclusion. Maybe I'm overstating it.
Just
Maybe
ending
you're
ending up at a
understating it.
different place.
Right. You're maybe like understating it. Maybe I'm overstating it, but minus 355 kind of does all the talking. So
Yep.
Jamal Emmers round one KO is the pick here.
Respect. Respect. Moving on. Next fight, we have got another Mexican fighter. Well, actually, is this our first Mexican fighter officially? This is our first Mexican fighter.
Yeah.
Rafa Garcia, or I guess it's Rafa Garcia since he's not Brazilian. He is taking on a 42-year-old Vince Pichel. What do you think is going to happen here?
Whoa, I hate this. Look at this. Um, all right. So Rafa Garcia, guy's a grappler with some good power, good jab, solid movement. Dino, like I used to really like Rafa Garcia, right? And then last time out, man, that was a fucking brutal performance against Grant Dawson. Now, is it that Grant Dawson is that good? Have we been kind of discrediting him? I do think so, man. I think we kind of gave him a lot of shit for getting knocked out by Bobby Green. He does what he did to Rafa Garcia to a lot of people in the
I,
UFC.
just to interrupt you real quick, I
Yeah,
think that both things can be true. I think what you said, both things are true, right? Where I think, yes, we were underrating Grant Dawson. I think he's much better than Rafa Garcia. But at the same time, I do think that Rafa Garcia was pretty damn good. You know what I mean? Like, you just
yeah,
expect them to lose to a guy like Dawson.
sure. And it feels like, he was always like that dog, right? He was always that fucking tough, gritty guy. And as of late, that hasn't really been showing, man. So is he losing that dog? That kind of worries me for him in this fight because the guy that he's facing, Vince from Hell Pichel, is literally everything that you would want in a fucking dog, right? First of all, he's the oldest guy on the roster, which is wild. With the youngest guy on the roster on this card, Raul Rosas, who we're going to see later on, which is kind of cool. But holy shit, what a fucking dog. A guy that's been here forever. Kind of a surprising performance last time out, DS. We thought he was going to get absolutely fucking murdered by by one of the Bonfim brothers. And he put on like a solid performance. He lost that fight pretty comfortably, but he went to war with a young prospect who we thought very highly of. It seemed like it was a layup matchup, and it turned out to be a really fucking scrappy fight. Of course, Vince Pichel is going to be good at everything. You have to be well-rounded to be in the UFC for this long. I would fucking love to pick Vince Pichel here. I just can't do it because of the age. He's 43, 44 years old, I think. I think he can totally out-tough Rafa Garcia in this one, Dino. I think there is a world where he wins this fight by just being the tougher, grittier guy, surviving at altitude, just being tough as nails and winning a decision. I just can't do it for the sake of the pick on the show. I will be rooting for Vince Pichel. I may even sprinkle on Vince Pichel, but the official pick is Rafa Garcia by decision.
Yeah. I'm definitely more confident in Rafa Garcia than you are. It's wild to me that Rafa, like, how do you go? Like, how is that your last two fights? You know what I mean? Like, you fought Grant Dawson, and then now you're fighting Vince Pichel. So, interesting. Grant Dawson, I thought, was a big, big step up. But look, man, at the end of the day, we have seen enough from Rafa Garcia to know who he is, right? He's very well rounded. He throws some bombs. Yeah, I mean, we've seen some really good performances from him. I think he's floated around enough that we know where he kind of lands in the UFC. Like, he's kind of like a guy who, like, he's undersized, but you see him like just outside the rankings almost, kind of thing. Or at least you did it seemed like that's where he was headed, right? So to me, a 42-year-old Vince Pichel, yes, he's tough, man, but to me, Rafa Garcia doesn't really have any weaknesses, and I think he's aggressive enough. I think he's going to be the aggressor here, where, yes, Vince Pichel has a lot of experience, and I expect him to put up a good fight here, but I think eventually he's going to get knocked out, man. So I'm going to take Rafa Garcia by second round knockout in this one.
I want to do one thing here, DS. I know we always say that, MMA math, don't be mathing and all that. I'm just looking at Rafa Garcia's tapology here and going back to the beginning of his UFC career. Comes in, loses his first fight, a decision versus Nasrat Haqparast, a loss that has aged pretty damn well. After that, Chris Gerdeschmacher lost to him, doesn't age so well. Then he gets 2 wins in a row. Natan Levy, Jesse Ronson. Natan Levy's been cut. I believe Jesse Ronson no longer on the roster. I haven't seen him in a while at least. Then he loses to Drakkar Klose, beats Mahashate and beats Clay Guida, loses to Grant Dawson. So yes, the Grant Dawson fight was a very big step up, but his wins, man, 4 wins in the UFC, not against the best guys, man, against old guys, against guys that
Yeah.
just really didn't
Yeah.
belong. And then Mahashate, I guess, is the most impressive performance or win on his resume. So just weird strength of schedule and weird matchmaking for Rafa Garcia.
For sure. Yeah, it's almost like it's tough to like fully have a picture of where like who he really is, right?
Yeah, yep.
Yeah, I just think I think I've seen enough with, I guess more than anything for me is the eye test at this point. Like, and again, to me it's the aggression, right? I just feel like he's gonna be the much more assertive fighter in this one.
Is he more aggressive than Bonfim?
I mean, It depends. At times I think I would say, yeah.
Man, Ishmael Bonfim's fucking aggressive, dude. You know, and
For
Vince
sure.
Mich- well, but anywho, yeah, we'll see what happens. We're both picking Rafa Garcia. We're arguing about nothing.
Oh, I mean, we're not arguing, we're just having a conversation, but all right, let's move on. Next fight on the docket, we've got Lupi Godinez. She is taking on Julia Palastri. Talk about an inconsistent fighter, right? Lupi Godinez, man, as far as the women fighters go, very frustrating, right? There are times when, she looks really good and she's definitely worked on her striking, but that's to me the most frustrating part about watching Lupi Godinez is the fact that she is a damn good wrestler, maybe one of the best wrestlers in this weight class, yet she kind of always strays away from it, right? She always tries to make. There's nothing wrong with throw a straight, but then shoot the takedown, right? I feel like she's the type of fighter where she could do like a Marab strategy in this weight class, right? I'm not saying she has
Yep.
that kind of cardio or she's like quite that good, but the skill level's lower overall, right? So to me, Lupe, just use your goddamn wrestling, right? So to me, this is a pretty straightforward fight, man. I mean, look at her last few opponents, and then now we're moving down to Julia Palastri. It's a big step down in competition for Lupe Godinez. Despite how inconsistent she is, I just think overall she's the much better fighter here. Julia Palastri, to me, is pretty ass. She lost to Josephine Knudsen. She went to a split decision with Corey McKenna, who I think is also ass. These are kind of bottom feeders at this division. So look, unless she wants to be an absolute dunce, I mean, Julia Palastri probably has the better striking, but I don't think it's by much. If she does, she does have some good clinch work. I will say that. I just think even if it gets to the clinch, if Lupi's not stupid, you can take her down from the clinch. I don't think she has that great of takedown defense. To me, this should be pretty straightforward, man. Lupi's a decision machine. I think if she were to use her skills properly, she could get a sub finish here. I just don't think we're going to see that. I think she's still going to be a little bit inconsistent with how she's shooting the takedowns. I don't think she's going to go dominate 3 rounds on the ground. But I think she wins the fight by decision overall.
Yeah, Diaz. I mean, I don't have too much to add, man. Lupi Godina is a really frustrating fighter, as you kind of alluded to there. Like, she should definitely be better than she is. She's one of those fighters, man, where you just don't know which version of herself is going to come in there, right? There's a lot of fighters in the UFC like that. And Lupi Godina is, at least as far as the women are concerned, she's the top one of those. It's like you get either the fucking dog Lupi Godinez or you just get like a stupid fucking dumb decision making Lupi Godinez, right? So,
Yep.
she's the better fighter. She's tougher. She's stronger. She's got way higher of a ceiling. She's in Mexico City. I do think she could get a finish if she really goes for it, but I do think it goes to decision. And even if the decision is close and Julia is the one that's edged it out on fucking verdict or whatever the case is, they're going to give Lupi Godinez the decision in Mexico. There's no way she loses the fight if it goes to decision. She's going to be the star of the prelim portion of this show, right? So the fans love her out there. She's a
That's a
fan
good point.
favorite. Yeah,
That's a great point.
it's Lupi Godinez by decision. I hate betting women's fights, but I think it's pretty comfortable throwing this in a parlay.
I agree with you.
Yes, sir.
All right, let's move on. Next fight, and I'm very curious to see what you think about this one. We got C-Rod, Christian Rodriguez. He's taking on Melquizael Costa.
Yeah. Hey, look, two my boys here, man. Two my boys, DS. I kind of hate this fucking fight, right? I hate it when they pit two my boys against each other, but just the way they do C-Rod really fucking bothers me. I know we say it every time.
I was
Either
just
way,
going to say another weird matchup for Christian Rodriguez.
super fucking weird. Yeah, Melky Costa, man, just fought a couple weeks ago, got himself a win. I believe he got himself a bonus, and here he is again. A guy that we were both very high on when he was entering the UFC from the LFA. He's kind of been middling in the UFC, but it seems like he's finally kind of like turned that corner and he's becoming who he's supposed to be. And I'm happy to see Melky succeeding, man. He's tough, he's gritty, he's got good grappling. He's really heavy in his grappling, DS. Like, he does great work up against the cage. I don't want to compare him to Kamaru Usman, but he kind of has like that type of strategy up against the cage. He's willing to lay on you. He's willing to slowly take you down while on the cage. And I really like that about Melky. Good power in his hands, of course, as well. He's taking on Christian Rodriguez, the prospect killer. Slick as hell on the ground, solid as shit on the feet. Big wins, man, against massive young prospects in the UFC. We saw him last time out against Austin Bashi. He did the same thing to fucking to Raul Rosas, who's on this card. They were always pinning him up against prospects. And when they did give him that jump up to a UFC veteran, he loses those fights, DS. Yes, I believe it's only been twice in the UFC, but he kills everybody, all these prospects. Then
Well,
he loses.
it's been twice, period.
Yeah, 2 losses in his career, both to veterans that have way more experience than him, than all the prospects. He absolutely murks them. Melky Costa, kind of a tweener, right? Not really a prospect, not really a veteran. So interesting to see what's going to happen here. The way I see this, DS, I think Melky Costa is too big for him, man. I think he's just too big for Christian Rodriguez. I think the size is going to be a massive factor in this one. That heavy style grappling, I think it's going to wear C-Rod down. And we've seen C-Rod get worn down and subbed late in fights. So that's what I think is going to happen here. I think Melky's just going to use a lot of clinching, make it kind of boring. He has enough power to threaten C-Rod and to kind of force him into shitty situations. And I think he's going to wear him down and then get a late submission. So I'm going Melky Costa round 3. RNC or an arm triangle, some kind of choke on the ground.
I'm shocked, bro. I have the same thing. I've got Mel Costa by submission as well. I thought for sure you were picking C-Rod, to be honest. Yeah, very interesting.
I'm down.
Look, the Andre Fili fight is impressive. Very impressive. Very impressive. I think Andre Fili is a good fighter. Yes, now he's another kind of low IQ fighter and somebody who tends to make some stupid decisions, but very quality win. Mel Costa definitely has a good amount of momentum. I have pretty much the exact same notes written down as you. The fact that he loses to veterans, and with the prospects, it's like, yes, he wins those fights, and yes, he checked a lot of guys, and he's like the prospect killer and all this stuff. But it's like, well, how good were they really, right? We don't really know how good they were, right?
Yeah, we still don't.
Exactly. A lot of them we still don't. So, yeah, I mean, to me, Mel Costa's a guy that fought at 155, right? And you've got C-Rod, who should be fighting at 135, in my opinion. He's probably closer to 5'6" too at this point.
Well, he wanted to, right? But he kept missing weight, and the UFC's like, dude, you're killing our fucking 35 prospects by being a fucking little tubby. By the way, he's a small guy. We met him at the fucking club that one day.
He's tiny.
Yeah, he's a tiny dude.
Good dude, everything's. I'm not like disrespecting him in any way, but it's just like, yeah, I think to me that's like he should be able to make 135, right? Yeah. So you've got a guy who's huge for the division. You've got a guy who's small for the division. Both very well rounded. I think Mel Costa is a better striker. Christian Rodriguez likely to throw more volume. He doesn't have much power. Not that Mel Costa has some crazy knockout power, but I think his shots are stiffer. And yeah, what you said about the grappling, I think also rings true. So I'm going to take him by sub in the second round. Yeah, we'll see. I think that it's going to be some good plus money on that for sure.
One more thing to throw in, man, for what it's worth, that last time out with C-Rod, yes, he beat Austin Bashi. I think it was very clear that he won that fight, but Austin Bashi, that was his debut fight in the UFC, and he didn't look at all like, who we expected him to look like. So a shitty performance from Austin Bashi.
I never liked Austin Bashi. I just want to say that.
And that's fine. But a shitty performance from Austin Bashi and a relatively close fight with C-Rod. So, I don't know how to take that. Just throwing it out there.
I mean, respect. I think it's very relevant.
Yeah.
All right, moving on. Next guy on the card is Jose Medina. He is a sizable underdog to Ateba Gautier. And this is, talk about a fucking weird matchup, huh?
Yeah, very.
You got this 6'4" at 185, 6'4", fucking absolutely shredded, 22-year-old African fella. He is about as raw as a fighter gets at this point. He is massively athletic and he's got massive power. He's an absolute fucking tank. I bet you he gets bigger and we see him fighting at light heavyweight at some point, right? Curious to see because he's got all the physical tools, and Jose Medina looks, no disrespect, looks like a fucking high school janitor or something, right? Also the fact that, if you've seen Jose Medina, which obviously I'm sure you have, but to the people watching this, he literally is one of the few, I guess not that few, but one of the guys that got a contract on Dana White's Contender Series that didn't win his fight, but so now you're probably thinking like, oh, okay, well, he must have been a close fight and all. He got his ass whooped. He got his ass whooped for 3 rounds, and Dana White was just like enjoying the shit out of it. and was like, "Fuck it, bro. Here's a contract." He's a 33-year-old, journeyman, basically. Like, just has been through a few different organizations, and yeah, look, nothing looks crazy to me. I think we're gonna see a first round knockout here. I really do. Gautier has a 81-inch reach, crazy athletic, very strong. He doesn't have good takedown defense, so if Jose Medina is going to win this fight, he needs to take him down. I think, and I think that's it. That is what he's going to try to do. But I think Table Gautier just has simply the physical tools and physical strength to just be able to outmuscle anything that Jose Medina is going to try to do to him. So I could see a decision here because Table Gautier is so raw. But I'm going to take him by first round knockout.
Yeah, DS. Look, I'm not going to mince words. I'm taking the Thibaut Gauthier second round KO just because of how tough Jose Medina is. I just want to throw this out there, man. You did a great job with that breakdown. One thing I really want to harp on: Jose Medina not only got his ass whooped on the Contender Series, he also did in the UFC by Zach Reese and still didn't get fucking finished. So this guy is tough as shit, man. And
You're
when
right.
I first
I didn't even mention that. You're absolutely right. I totally forgot about the Zach Reese fight.
And DS, when I first saw this fight, when I first laid eyes on it, I swear to you, I knew that the odds were going to be this way. And I was like, man, I really want to pick Jose Medina. I know it's fucking crazy, so I'm not doing it. I'm picking Atiba Gauthier by knockout round 2, but I am not comfortable at all, man. You have a kid coming in, making his UFC debut, who, as you said, is super raw. He's super young. What happens when he goes out there and he swings fucking wild for 3 minutes and blows his
Oh, he's gonna be
load
gassed. He's gonna be
at
gassed out of his mind.
at elevation in Mexico City, something he's not used to. And then here comes Jose Medina, who's just a fucking zombie walking forward. So officially, I'm picking Atiba Gauthier. I would be very fucking careful throwing this in a parlay. My confidence level is literally like 52%. I do feel like, I'm telling you, initial thought was Jose Medina wins this fight by decision or even a fucking late finish. So just throwing that out there. Gautier's the pick. I wouldn't be surprised at all if
That's
Jose Medina.
valid, my boy.
Yeah.
Valid as fuck, on God. Also, on that note, this might be a good one to sprinkle a little bit to, maybe keep that money in your pocket until you see how the first round goes, right? Because, the guy's already a massive favorite. What's the point? So maybe you see how the first round goes. Maybe he throws, 80 fucking punches in the first round. And like you said, it's like a zombie. Jose Medina is just marching forward. They're at altitude, exactly like you said. And then now maybe the tide turns because, yeah, if he doesn't knock him out in the first round, I could see him being tough enough. But man, he can't fight stupid, right? At
Yeah.
altitude, it's unforgiving. You cannot just, especially a heavily muscled guy like he is, you cannot just be throwing them things around.
And look, I honestly, I swear to God, I think he's like a really live dog in this one.
Are you picking Jose Medina?
I'm not picking him. The official
Okay.
pick is Atiba Gauthier, but he's like a live fucking dog.
Now he's gonna win, and I know you're gonna text me and be like, "Fuck, bro, I should have just picked him."
Or he's gonna get starched in 12 seconds, and I'm gonna look like a fucking asshole for being like, dude, this guy tough as fuck. But regardless of the fact, I think this fight, like, it could play out in a bunch of weird ways.
All right, let's move on. Next fight on the card, we've got Edgar Cairez. He is taking on CJ Vergara. How do you see this fight going, bud?
Another fucking weird matchup, man. Edgar Shirez, aggressive, long-bodied fighter, constantly moving forward. DS, he's always threatening, but of course he's dumb as fuck. He's not defensively responsible. He's super hittable. He does have really good jiu-jitsu. You have to be careful if on the ground. You have to be careful in the clinch. This guy is constantly looking for a finish. He's taking on CJ Vergara, another dude who's kind of like notorious for coming out very fucking hot and blowing his load and getting tired. But very high pressure, great boxing, good power, willing to brawl, maybe a little too much at times to his detriment. Last time out, just a brutal, brutal result against Ramazan Tamirov. Got just destroyed, dropped like 3 times in a minute and a half or some shit. Got finished super early. Not a good look. Like, I don't know what to make of this, DS. Me and you have talked about Edgar Shirez. I believe he was on the original Noche UFC card. And
Yep.
I just don't think that the guy is as high level as maybe some people do. I really don't see him as a super high level guy. I think he's very low level
I mean,
UFC.
he has one win in the UFC, so I don't know how many people are ranking him as like a super high level guy, but
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
I never thought highly of the guy. And CJ Vergara, a guy I thought very highly of. And then that's kind of come back down to earth with some of the shitty performances. But when it comes to the eye test, man, besides just snatching up a neck, I think CJ Vergara is better everywhere than Edgar Chairez. So unless he guesses, which he totally can at elevation, and makes a stupid mistake, which he totally can because he does all the time, I just think he's the better fighter. I think he wins this fight, especially like DS. If this fight goes into the second and third rounds and Chairez has not been able to take down CJ Vergara or really like hold him up against the cage, I think it's Vergara's fight to lose. So I'm going to go decision CJ Vergara. Again, very low confidence, but let me get that.
I respect it, man. I respect it. I think this is going to be a close fight regardless. CJ Vergara, very tough. Edgar Chairez, I don't know, man. Like something about him, right? Like to me, like the punches are snappy. He's aggressive. I think for me, again, it's the aggression, right? It's the fact that he doesn't sit back. He's going to move forward and he's going to try to make something happen. And then, yeah, if he snatches up your neck, man, we've seen some. We saw him almost get a finish on Tatsuro Taira in their fight, and it was damn close. If there was a few seconds left in that fight, maybe he would have pulled that off. But respect to both guys because this guy didn't tap. But I think we're going to see some good leg kicks from Chairez, man. I really like the leg and body kicks. CJ Vergara coming off a bad knockout too, so man. And I mean, look at the fight for Chairez versus Josh Van. I thought he had some nice moments in that one too. To me, it's kind of weird to me that he has only one win in the UFC, honestly, because well, really it's two because he kind of beat Daniel Lacerda twice.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I think he's pretty good. To me, he passes the eye test. I don't think he's like at the tippy top of this division or anything like that. But CJ Vergara at this, and how old is CJ Vergara now?
You gotta be 30, maybe.
He's older than that.
33.
33.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, so there's not a big difference there. But yeah, I think Chairez has a pretty distinct advantage on the ground. And when it comes to the strikes, I just think the punches are a little bit punchier, if that makes sense. But I mean, I absolutely could see CJ Vergara. This is like a 55-45 kind of thing for me here. I'm going to pick Edgar Chairez by decision, but yeah, it's going to be close.
Let's see what happens, brother. Should be a fun fight.
This should be a fun one for sure. I don't think and really, we're talking about the ground game. I don't really see this one going to the ground, to be honest with you. I think they're just going to stand and bang, and I think this has fight of the night potential.
That's right.
All right, next fight on the card, we've got Ronaldo Rodriguez. He is taking on Kevin Borjas. Ronaldo Rodriguez is a wild fighter, man. He'll throw a strike from any position. He's like the epitome of unorthodox. He's shown a propensity to get out of some really wild fucking situations. You look at the Ode Osborne fight, where it looked like he was going to be finished a couple different times, couple different ways, and always kind of managed to get out of it. So I think he's a beast in that regard. For me, this one's pretty simple. I just think he's simply much better than Kevin Borjas. I don't like Kevin Borjas, no disrespect. I like the kicks of Ronaldo Rodriguez. I like his jiu-jitsu better. To me, I don't really see where Kevin Borjas is better, to be honest with you. So give me Ronaldo Rodriguez. I don't think we see a finish here either. I'm seeing a lot of decisions on this card. So I'm going to take Ronaldo Rodriguez by decision. Pretty straightforward one for me. Pretty high confidence level here.
I think we do get a finish. I think Lazy Boy gets a knockout round 1 DS. Like when I break this fight down, like you were saying, I think he's just the better fighter. The only thing Kevin Borjas, there's a couple things he has, I guess, above him, which is more more experience, and he's definitely the cleaner striker. Like he looks cleaner. You were mentioning that Ronaldo Rodriguez.
Yeah, because Ronaldo Rodriguez looks fucking insane.
That's what I'm saying, right? And he was almost finished in that Ode Osborne fight. They should have stopped that fight. Ode Osborne should have a win, and of course he got fucking finished, which is a tough break for Ode Osborne. Regardless, though, DS, there's something to be said about momentum, man. Lazy Boy has momentum. He kind of stole the fucking press conference at the Sphere. The Mexican fans love this guy to death. I mentioned Lupi being the star of the prelims. Pre-Brandon Moreno, this is this is kind of like the next star. There's like 4 or 5
of them. He's fucking awesome. Honestly, like if you want to watch some wild shit, just watch him.
Yeah, and he talks as wild as he fucking fights. I think he gets a knockout round 1, and I think a star is born for the UFC, at least in that region of the world, and maybe more. Maybe
I would love to see that. I would love to see that because I think Kevin Borjas is ass.
His mouth is big as shit, though, and I don't mean he talks shit, which he does. He's got a massive mouth.
He's got like that template for like that kind of guy. You know what I
Motherfucker
mean? And like his
pickles
fighting style
sideways.
matches that too, if that makes any sense to you.
Yeah, 100%. He eats pickles sideways and shit. You know what I mean?
The long way.
The long way.
All right. All right, moving on to the next fight. It's David Martinez. He is taking on Simon Oliveira. Sorry, tweaking.
Salmon. Isn't this the most like fucking just like typical ass names? David Martinez versus Simon Oliveira. I just feel
Bro,
like
at Lane Tech, I probably knew like 17 David Martinez is my guy.
that's it. So you guys probably know some Dave Martinez's. You've seen some Simon Oliveira's. What's the breakdown?
There's
Diaz?
not a lot of Brazilians in the US, I feel like.
No, right? You don't see too many of them, but like you have a good idea of who's like if you don't even know who the fuck this guy is, and I'm like Simon Oliveira, how does
Oh,
he
I
fight?
mean, of course, of course.
That's how he fights. And then David Martinez, how does he fight? Just like a David Martinez would, dog. So really, which style do you prefer? Look, Simon Oliveira Diaz, he's coming back after a 2 year layoff, man. I don't know if it was due to injury. I don't know if he was just trying to fucking take a break and level up. Regardless, I don't fucking love that. Of course, being named Simon Oliveira, that is how he fights. He's like a super lanky fucking submission guy, great jujitsu on the feet. He's kind of mid. Doesn't have too much power. He's facing David Martinez, a good striker, great movement, great pressure, smart on the feet, defensively very responsible, great leg kicks, good takedown defense. So really, it's a jiu-jitsu guy that has been out of MMA for 2+ years at this point that can't really take people down against a Mexican style boxer slash striker with some solid power. I can't pick the dude coming back after 2 years. Um, I think the ring rust gets the best of him. I don't even know if I believe in ring rust, but David Martinez round 1 KO, unless he's fucking stupid and ends up in some tricky ass situation, in which case he's getting subbed.
You pretty much said it. I think the one thing to me, in my opinion, that you underplayed is David Martinez's power. I think every shot that he throws is thrown with ill intent. So I love to see that. But yeah, man. I mean, look, and Simon Oliveira, even when he came into the UFC, in 2021. Sorry, he won on the Contender Series in 2021. And then he only fought twice in the UFC. He lost both times. One was to Daniel Marcos early in Daniel Marcos's run. And he looked like shit in that one, to be quite honest with you. And then the other one was to somebody who's ass. Who was it?
Tony Gravely.
Tony Gravely. Yeah, I mean, I'm not a big Tony Gravely guy, but yeah, I mean, losing to Tony Gravely in 2022, I don't think that's that great. So yeah, man, the older guy coming off 7 years older, coming off a long hiatus. I wasn't that impressed when he was healthy and actually, fighting. So obviously Martinez is making his UFC debut, which does make me a little bit nervous. But the hands, the power, the speed on the feet, I think there's going to be a big, big difference in the speed and the hand speed on the feet. So I agree with you, man. Martinez, first round knockout.
One more thing. You just mentioned Daniel Marcos. So we got to do the check in, right? 17-0 DS. He's got a fight coming up against Montel Jackson. Is this the one? Is this where it goes? Is it Montel Jackson that takes the O?
No,
Man, I wanted to say yeah, but I don't fucking think so.
I want to
Yeah.
say yeah too, but no, I don't think he
Yeah,
will.
I don't think so, man. So we'll cover that when it
I
fucking comes
think
up.
he'll be just safe enough and do just enough on the feet to make it happen. But
Yeah. Yep. Okay.
all right, man. Moving on. Next fight is uh
I said.
it's fucking the Tasmanian Devil himself, Raul Rosas. And he is taking on Vince Morales. Um,
Rosas.
Look, man, this fight is very straightforward to me, right? First of all, what the fuck was Raul Rosas doing last fight? Like, why is he's not a striker? You're not just a striker now all of a sudden. That's like the thing that always happens, right? Somebody comes in, they're a fucking dominant. Look at Lupe Godinez. You come in, you're a great fucking wrestler. You're dominant in that field. Look at Bo Nickel. Like, bro, you're not a striker. You're not a striker. You get one fucking knockout, now you're a striker, right? So to me, if Raul Rosas just does what he needs to do and shoots the goddamn takedowns and just mauls Vince Morales on the ground, he is very capable of doing that. I think he is physically stronger, which is fucking crazy to say when the kid is what, like 20,
20.
21, right? Also I saw him hanging out with like a fucking 16-year-old or some shit on Instagram. Like he should chill out on that. I don't know what's going
He's a
on there.
child, bro. You know what I mean?
Yeah, this is a kid.
Yeah.
But yeah, especially, I know you just barely turned into a man, but But yeah, look, man, Vince Morales at one point was out of the UFC. He's now back in the UFC. Um, since he's returned, he's lost both of his fights. To me, his striking has looked bad too. So look, this to me is very straightforward. I don't know how he wants to do it. I guess Raul Rosas could probably even get the win on the feet, realistically. I'm not big on Vince Morales. Raul Rosas, just take the guy down and just get the first round finish.
Look, DS, that last fight against Arichi Lang at the Sphere, Raul Rosas, like something popped up. Like we've always seen him like get the wins, and he asks for 50 cheese and all that kind of shit, right? And he was an entertaining fighter and great jujitsu and all that. And last time out was a really boring performance against Arichi Lang, right? When he
Terrible.
it wasn't that he found himself in trouble really on the feet, but it was like we saw him struggle a little more than we thought he would. And then he started just being really fucking boring and using the takedowns and just kind of sitting there. And that's how he won the fight. And the kid had the fucking audacity to ask for 50 cheese one more
Yeah,
fucking
that
time,
was wild. That was so cringe, dude.
which is crazy, right? The pick is Raul Rosas. I do think I don't want to say overrated because that's the wrong word. I want to say he's overhyped at this point in his career. I still think the sky is the limit for this kid. I still think he can get to a title in the UFC. I think that is definitely in the realm of possibilities. But like you were kind of alluding to, stick true to who you are, man. You're a great jiu-jitsu practitioner, and it seems like the fucking wrestling, working in Vegas with guys like Aljo, guys like Marab, you always seen him training with killers. That can only be good for this kid. He's improving every fucking time we see him, even though that last performance was a stinker. So give me Raul
He was
Rosas.
a decent opponent too, like
Right, of course, man. A big dude for what it's worth. But I think Raul Rosas is going to make this fight kind of boring, DS. I think he's going to go out there and wrestle. He'll look for the finishes on the ground, but I think he's going to stay safe enough to not, fuck anything up and get like a clean 30-27 decision on this card in Mexico. I believe it's his first time fighting in Mexico in the UFC as well. So that's going to be fucking massive. A win for this kid does a lot for him as well in terms of his star power.
for sure. For sure. And what a stage for him to be on. So yeah, I just hope he does it dominantly and not puts up a stinker, like you said.
Yep.
Moving on. We've got a very, very fucking interesting fight. We've got Kelvin Gastelum. He's taking on Joe Bodybags.
Yeah. Look, DS, I know you're a huge Kelvin Gastelum guy, man. Who doesn't fucking love Kelvin Gastelum, right? I love Kelvin Gastelum. We got pictures with him on Instagram at D107MMA. Let me put the thing at the fucking bottom.
How slap was Cejudo?
Cejudo was hammered that day. I think allegedly. But anyways, Kelvin Gastelum, man, just a fucking fun fighter in his prime, man. We know the war with Israel Adesanya. We've seen him go to war with a bunch of guys, and just a dude that stuck around at the top of the division for a long time, and a fucking absolute legend of the game.
Is that fight in the Hall of Fame already?
It's getting in this year. It just got in, so in July they'll be inducted. Now, here's what I want to say, man. We've seen Kelvin Gastelum as of late DSB inactive. We've seen him fucking miss weight. We've seen him become just like a chubbier, slower version of himself. And Kelvin Gastelum, to me, for you basketball fans out there, is like a Charles Barkley, right? He never got to that fucking pinnacle. He was a dog his whole career, a legend, a Hall of Famer, whatever the fuck you want to call it. Never crossed that finish line, but a guy where you knew once he started slowing down, he was just going to fucking inflate and become fat. And I'm a fucking fat guy, so I can say it. All right, no, but Kelvin Gastelum got too fucking big. DS, I just don't believe in him anymore, man. I wish I did. I like him way more than I like Joe Pyfer. I don't think Joe Pyfer is the best prospect in the world, or I guess now we call him a contender, the best contender in the world, but he's way more committed, man. The dude is fucking big. He's shredded as fuck. Prime for prime, I'm going Gastelum. It's not prime for prime, unfortunately. I think Joe Pyfer is going to win this fight. I think he's going to win it by decision. I think it's going to be tougher than he thinks.
You're wild.
If he thinks he's getting Kelvin Gastelum out of there, I don't think he's getting Kelvin Gastelum out of there. So I think he's going to get tired, Joe Pyfer, towards the end of this fight, and it'll become really sloppy. Odds are crazy to me. I know decision is fucking crazy, but give me Joey Bodybags by decision over Kelvin Gastelum, who I just don't know how committed he is.
You're tweaking my ass out hard, dude. You're tweaking my ass out hard. Your full analysis, I completely agree with. I mean, what else is there to say? Charles Barkley was such a good comp, dude. Such a good comp because, yeah, all that, and they both could have used losing 30 pounds, like 35 pounds. You know what I mean? Uh,
and
I
being
don't.
taller, right? They're both
Uh,
short. They're both short. They're both stocky. They got to the chip, couldn't win it, and then were just fat later on in their career.
dude, that's an in the middleweight division. That is an unbelievable comp. That's spot
Thank
on,
you.
brother. Good
Thank you.
shit. Um, Look, man, and I everything you said, I agree with, right? And it's just like there's really two. You're crazy for saying a decision, but for Joe Pyfer because it's at altitude. Joe Pyfer hasn't been like a cardio goblin by any means, right? And he is jacked as fuck.
As
So he's
fuck.
super jacked. Has shown potentially questionable cardio at times before. Calvin Gastelum, fat doesn't get tired, brother. So at, at altitude, maybe the chunkiness is going to help him out. But yeah, I mean, come on, dude. Joe Pyfer is obviously the more committed guy. And I think there's a good chance that we see a first round knockout here, or even maybe a second round knockout. And to me, the odds are still a little fucking crazy because Calvin Gastelum has fought the absolute best of the best. Yes, he's been less than active lately, but man, like if Joe Pyfer doesn't get him out of there in the first round, I just don't see how he's gonna win, right? Calvin Gastelum has is he like the cleanest boxer ever? No, but he's got good power, and we've kind of seen less of that lately for sure. But I don't trust Joe Pyfer to sit there and like grapple or land. I don't know. I just think if he's gonna be the more active fighter, he's gonna get exhausted, and that's almost a guarantee to me. I think he's gonna be the more tired fighter. So unless Calvin Gastelum has like completely packed it in, unless he's like straight up like he's completely done, he's not even barely training shit like that, and it's possible. That's possible because he's what 36 now.
Yeah.
No, dude, he's only 30 fucking three still.
I,
That's so
I thought he was
crazy
like
to me.
older than that, but yeah. I mean,
That's
look,
crazy to me.
at,
But
at, God, good.
I'm gonna pick Calvin Gastelum for the official pick. I'm gonna pick Calvin Gastelum by decision. I just I just think he's able to not get knocked out, stay out of the big shots, and ultimately at high altitude, Fat doesn't get tired, brother. I think he's just gonna end up being more active in rounds 2 and 3. I could see this being a snooze fest.
Look, DS, I don't think Kelvin Gastelum is going to gas in this one. I don't think there's. I really don't think that's a possibility.
You
As
just
far
need a
as
tough ass fight like for 3 rounds. That's still what
right,
Kelvin.
and he's about that. But the thing with Joe Pyfer is, I don't know. Like I don't know that the cardio is that much of an issue, man. I mean, in the UFC, yes,
No, I don't think it's an issue. I don't think it's like an issue. I'm just saying like a fucking big swole dude.
I mean, he
Think
went five. He went five in a grappling heavy fight with what was it, Jack Hermanson,
for
right?
man. Yeah.
Yeah, he went 5 rounds with him, and yes, he got his ass whooped.
Oh, you mean a veteran, very good wrestler?
Right.
He doesn't
Yeah,
have a
and he got fraud checked in that one.
yeah.
He fraud checked is what people were saying. But besides that, I mean, we've seen Joe Pyfer finishing everybody. So I
Yeah.
get what you're saying. Like the math lines up that way.
It's a big step up in competition. Even this version of Kelvin
I don't know
Gastelum.
that it is, man. I think Jack Hermanson's
Well,
higher than
okay.
Kelvin Gastelum at this point.
No, yeah, for sure. I agree with you there. I agree with you there. I'm just saying compared to like the guys that he was like knocking the fuck out.
You're right. Yeah, no, 100%. I'm with you, dude. I just think at this point he's just a better fighter than Kelvin Gastelum, and I think enough of Kelvin Gastelum to not get knocked out and be that tough, gritty motherfucker that's not gonna go. So
I mean, you're right. He finished Abdul Razak Al Hassan wild, like crazy stick ass knockout of Barrio last time out.
mhm.
He should win this. He should win this. To me, the odds are like a little too crazy, and I think that is just kind of swaying me. But
Yeah.
Joe Piper should win this, and also for the division, it would be terrible if Kelvin Gastelum won.
Oh, awful. Yeah, awful.
All right, well, let's move on to the co-main event of the evening. Very interesting, as you said to me before we started recording, that this is the co-main over the fight we just talked about. Um, what was your theory on it? Is Kelvin Gastelum's Mexican, but like not?
He's like a Mexican American guy. He's a gringo, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly,
Manuel Torres. He's like authentic. You know what I mean?
exactly.
Yeah.
So Manuel Torres versus Drew Dober. Is this me or you?
This is you, Papas. That's why you're the big screen.
Oh, okay, my bad. Uh,
Orale, wait.
yeah, this is gonna be a banger of a fight, dude. This is gonna be a fucking banger of a fight. And at altitude, somebody's getting knocked the fuck out here. Somebody's getting knocked out. I think it would behoove Manuel Torres to use his height and length and stay at a distance here, right? And just kind of try to pick off Drew Dober. This is a wild one to try to predict because both of these guys are hittable and both of these guys have very different styles of striking, but they both have good power. Dober has not looked good, man. Dober is 36 years old. Maybe that's what I was thinking about. But he has just one win in his last 4 fights, and that was versus fucking Ricky Glenn, right? He got knocked out by Frivola. He got outclassed by Moicano, and then we know what Silva did to him. So 36 years old, man, a lot of wear and tear too. Like he's always live for a knockout. He's got big power, but at 36 years old, somebody who's known to be a fucking brawler and try to get inside and just absolutely swing for the fences, taking on, a decently rangy guy like Manuel Torres, who, yes, well, the thing is too, like he gets cocky and shit, right? And he does like stupid shit in the fucking octagon too. So somebody's gonna get knocked out. I'm betting all the unders on this. If I'm betting anything, I am gonna take Manuel Torres. I just think at 36 years old, at a fairly light weight class, Drew Dober, he's got no momentum, right? Manuel Torres lost his last fight too, but Drew Dober's been on a bad tear at this point. So I'm going to take Manuel Torres. It's not a terribly high confidence level. This is one that I'm probably just going to hold on to my money and enjoy the fireworks.
I feel you, Diaz. It's definitely going to be a fun fight. Look, man, I just want to say one thing about Manuel Torres. For what it's worth, before that loss to Ignacio Bahamondes, he was 3-0. And in that loss against Ignacio Bahamondes, it was a first-round knockout, but it was a fun, competitive fight for those, 3.5 minutes that it went. Let's talk about before that, right?
It's kind of out of nowhere type shit.
Right. His last fight before that, a finish over Chris Duncan. Fuck, that's aging nice after last week. Before that, a first-round knockout of Nicolas Mata, which is aging very well. He's 2-0 since fighting Manuel Torres. Then before that, a win versus Frank Camacho, a solid win. And let's not forget, before that, on the Contender Series, he beat Colton England, our boy, to get on to the UFC roster. By the way, shout out Colton England. Won his fucking main event, Diaz. Dana's got to pick up the fucking phone and call the guy. So anyways, impressive, man. Impressive resume. As you mentioned, he's long-bodied as shit. And I think in that last fight, he struggled because he was facing a guy that was longer and fucking taller than him. Yep. Ignacio Bahamondes, the tallest guy in the division. Drew Dober, a short guy for the division. He's kind of that Michael Chandler build, right? Short, stocky, fucking explosive and all that. As you mentioned, man, he's older. And 3 out of 4 losses. I know one was to Moicano, the other to Gene Silva. No shame in those losses. Those are aging very fucking well at this point. He's just on the downside of his career, man. The trajectory is going down for Drew Dober here. Yes, he has the power. Can he get it done? Of course he can. He's more proven than Manuel Torres. But I think the UFC knows what they're doing. The weird positioning of this fight lets me think that the UFC is doing this for a reason. This isn't the co-main event because they fucking brought All-American Drew Dober to fucking Mexico City. You know what I mean? This is for Manuel Torres to get a win over a guy with name value, a guy that has been fighting people that are in the title picture. Moicano got a title shot, right? It was weird circumstances, but he got it. Gene Silva's 1 or 2 fights away from a title shot. We're in the realm of possibilities where Gene Silva's fighting Alex Volkanovski at the end of this year for the fucking belt. Like, that's a fucking thing that can happen. So
that'd be crazy.
It's wild. You know what I'm saying? So anyways, long-winded way of saying I think Manuel Torres wins this. He is not on the downside of his career. Drew Dober is. I think that iron chin that Drew Dober has and he's famous for, we're starting to see some cracks in it, man. And that could happen. I'll still say decision because I believe in Drew Dober's chin. I believe in his toughness. Gene Silva wasn't able to put him out. They stopped that fight due to a really nasty fucking cut. So I don't know that Manuel Torres puts him out. He might, but I'm going decision Manuel Torres in front of the home crowd.
Yeah, maybe they get tired, know, and then the action slows down a little bit. Like, still a fun fight, but, a little bit less pop on the shots. I could see that.
Yeah.
One thing I want to say, too, is, like, exactly that, right? What you just said, it's very obvious that, like, the fight that we just talked about, the Pyfer fight and the Gastelum fight could probably be the co-main, but there's a reason that they didn't make it, right? They want to put Manuel Torres and give him that launching pad, which is interesting. But I guess we're in Mexico, right? But you would think that Joe Pyfer is like the bigger name. But then with that same regard, though, it's like, then why the fuck did you put him against Ignacio Bahamondes last time? Like, What I hate when they do that. Then why did you make that fight if you think this is like the next guy to represent Mexico? Like, is he the second best male Mexican fighter?
I don't know, but the Sphere was just weirdly put together, man. It was like a Mexican themed show, and the fucking main event was O'Malley and Marab. I feel like the UFC just kind of like panicked and put that together.
That
They
was
want,
so weird, man. But
yeah,
I mean, it was cool, but just weird.
very fucking weird. I don't know, DS. All I know is that I think this should be a fun fucking fight. I'm not like a huge believer in Manuel Torres. I just think that at this point he's better than Drew Dober.
I agree with you. Sad as it is,
Mm.
I agree with you, man.
Yep.
All right, and then of course the main event of the evening, we've got my boy Brandon Moreno. He is taking on Steve Erceg, who looked fucking good last time versus Pantoja, obviously.
Well, that wasn't the last fight,
Oh,
right?
I'm sorry. He last fought what's his name?
He got knocked the fuck out by Kaikar France.
Yeah, he fucking did, huh?
Yeah, that was
Jesus Christ, I totally forgot about that.
brutal. Absolutely fucking
Oh,
brutal.
that was fucking brutal.
Hey, come on,
Whoopsie
man.
daisy.
Yeah, it's tough. Look, DS, man, I've been when this fight got made, the initial thought process was Brandon Moreno immediately. I kind of always have discounted Steve Erceg. So it
You
was
really have, I feel like.
yeah, and it was sort of my bad. I guess he's been better than I thought he would be. You were high on him coming into the UFC, and rightfully so. The guy fucking skyrocketed to a title fight. I mean, I hate to be the guy that's like, you're only as good as your last performance or judge you just based off of one fight. And I think last time out, a lot of people were doing that with Brandon Moreno. I picked him to beat Amir Albazi. I
100%.
believe you did as well. And that
Correct.
was kind of our reasoning, was that he'd just be that little bit too much for Amir Albazi. But he wasn't just that little bit too much better than Amir Albazi. He was a lot fucking better than Amir Albazi.
Dominated.
Brandon Brandon Moreno's kind of doing like the Colby Covington, fucking whoever. My references are fucked up now, but just the Max Holloway. He's doing the Max Holloway where he's just like, I'm the second best guy in this fucking division. Nobody else fucks with me, and really that's the reason I'm picking him here, man. I think Steve Erceg, a guy again. I don't want to use that word overrated. I'll say a little overhyped. I think he just kind of got to that title fight with Pantoja a little bit too early. Didn't really deserve it. A lot of people think he won that fight. I don't. I think that's crazy. I think it was a clear 3-2 for Pantoja. But regardless, man, Steve Erceg, a good jiu-jitsu guy, some okay striking. He has kind of like that karate stance, man, but like he's a hittable dude, and we saw that with Kai Kara France. Now, does Brandon Moreno have the power that Kai Kara France does? Not really in terms of one-shot power, but Brandon Moreno, DS, I just got to toot, his fucking horn and sing his praises for a little bit. The guy is so fucking good, man. Knock on wood. The dude he's good everywhere. There's no weakness in Brandon Moreno's game where you're like, I'm going to go pick him apart there. As far as getting finished on the feet, impossible to finish Brandon Moreno. On the ground, it seems damn near impossible. He spent fucking rounds and rounds and rounds in 3 fights with Alexander Pantoja on his back. Didn't get finished. On the feet, he's a dog. He's gritty. He's always coming forward. He's always in your face throwing volume, willing to brawl, but he's so high IQ. I love Brandon Moreno, man. That last fight was so goddamn impressive. I have to pick him here. I think there's a world where he does get a TKO against Steve Erceg. I think it's possible. I will say dominant decision. I'm going to go 49-46, maybe even a 50-45, but I'll say 49-46 to be safe.
You pretty much said it all, dude. You pretty much said it all. Brandon Moreno is a top 5 talent probably in the UFC. He is unbelievable. He is one of the all-time greats in the weight class. It's he's kind of like the Utah Jazz, right? Like where it's like, what the fuck? Like it's just like, well, goddamn, like Michael Jordan's here. So, and I'm not saying necessarily that Pantoja is Michael Jordan, but he's fucking really good. And
Yeah.
look, Erceg looked really good against Pantoja, right? But then he got knocked the fuck out, badly versus Kai Kara France in the first round. So, look,
Which I picked, by the way. I picked Kai Kara France first round knockout, if y'all recall. So
you did, which is wild. Yeah, look, I don't think Brandon Moreno is going to see anything new from Steve Erceg. I just think he's better. I think the striking is clearly better. On the ground, maybe Steve Erceg's a little bit better, and maybe he's the type to go for the submissions more on the ground. I don't see him holding Brandon Moreno down. I don't,
No.
even if he's able to get him down, and I think that's going to be a tough task in its own right. like you said, man, if he can hang on for rounds at a time with fucking Pantoja on his back, who's, I mean, he's better than Erceg, as we saw, right? So I just don't see it, man. I don't really see a way for Steve Erceg to win this. It's crazy to say because I do think Steve Erceg belongs. I think he's top. I think he's 4 or 5, somewhere around there in this weight class, right? And I think he'll be around for a long time. But yeah, I don't think so, man. I'm gonna go Moreno by decision, but yeah, ultimately a pretty dominant decision.
There's a couple things that worry me in this one. I mean, I don't want to sound like it's all fucking peaches and cream and shit. One thing, man, there is big turnover happening in the UFC right now, kind of going back to that conspiracy theory thing. And for what it's worth, Brandon Moreno never won a fight in Mexico in the UFC. I believe he's 0-2-1. He might be 0-3-1. So he's never won in Mexico as a part of this promotion. And I can see if this fight's close, the UFC being like, well, what the fuck are we going to do with Brandon Moreno? He's already established. He has that name. Erceg had a close fight with Pantoja. I gotta
Yeah, but
imagine.
Erceg, you've already seen him take on a couple of the top guys, a couple of the top guys.
Right, I understand that. My thought process is more along the lines of let's get the belt off of this guy. Like, thank you, Pantoja. You did your thing. You saved a fucking card or two for us. But really, Pantoja isn't selling tickets. I love Alexander Pantoja. I think you know that. Absolute my boy. But he's not a guy that the UFC loves having the belt right now. I don't know that
He
Steve.
just kind of keeps to himself and fucks like just like dominates like handily.
Right. And I love it. I wish they would have done him versus Marab. I think he is the one champion besides Islam Makhachev that truly deserves the opportunity to go for double champ.
Yeah.
Shame that they're not giving him that opportunity. But yeah, I just have that kind of like as a little worry in my mind that the UFC's like, we don't need Brandon Moreno winning because he's going to be doing the Max Holloway thing, you know? They can't give him a fight versus Pantoja again. They just can't do it. If Kai Kara France wins the fucking belt, then you could do Brandon Moreno because he already fucking beat him. The rematch and go get your belt back. I guess
Yeah.
that would be better for the UFC if he had the belt than KKF. But I don't know. Flyweight's a fucking nightmare. I just wish they weren't doing our boy Charles Johnson dirty. I'd love to see Charles Johnson versus Steve Erceg. That's a fight I'm fucking interested in.
Same.
That's it. That's all
Absolutely.
I got, DS. That's all I got for UFC Mexico, cuz.
That's all I got, brother. I'm looking forward to it. Pumped to have done this. I'm glad we did, even though it was just a, as much as we love these themed cards, but bang.
Yeah, hey, it is what it is. So if you guys enjoyed, do us a favor. Do like the thing at the bottom says. Follow us on Instagram at D107MMA. Also, and again, more importantly, we're doing it backwards. Like and fucking subscribe. Me and this guy over here, DS. We're trying to get to 1,000 subs. DS, we're doing it by the vote card. That's my fucking goal.
Let's go.
So we're trying to do it by the vote card. Hook your boys up. You got to do a gambling video. We need best bets. Fucking DS's parlay.
Let's do it.
We need more of that in our lives. Next week, a shitty card, but then we get a fucking awesome pay-per-view after that, I believe. Yeah, anything else, DS, before we sign out of UFC
sir.
Mexico?
No, sir.
All right, guys, we are in Mexico City, as you can see by the Angel. We're going to go have some tecates and shit. That is DS. My name is Dino Bandman. We are the 10-7 MMA. Thank you guys so much for watching. Peace.